Hi, I'm Roy Hudson. Stand by for Sean. So make your day bright.
Hey guys, how y'all doing tonight? Welcome to Look Around Florida. I got our Army of Tennessee councilman Carl Jones behind the scenes, so to speak. Just remind everybody, the Florida Division Reunion is this Saturday. Like Calvin said, if you're going to show up the day of the event, you know, we're all going to get black armbands. So make sure you wear your black armband once it gets issued to you. So with that, Friday night, we're having a get together in Chiefland. If you want to show up and hang out and shoot the breeze, so to speak, with some good old Southern people, DM me, DM Jeff Cotton, or Dylan that's in the chat. We're all going to be pretty much together. Or if after the division reunion, you need to wet your whistle, so to speak, let me know. I'll tell you where the Saturday night get together after division reunion is going to happen. Pretty much the same place as Friday night. So, if you're going, I'd love to see everybody there that can be there. So, we're going to bring Carl Jones up, and he's going to let us know, A, who he is, and two, his position as being councilman. Hey, Carl, how are you doing tonight, sir?
Good, buddy. How you doing?
Just another fun night.
I hear you. I keep thinking it's Monday. It's actually Tuesday. I'm going to be confused all week.
I was like that today myself. So, Carl, how long have you been in the SCV?
I have been in since 2004, so 19 years.
Wow. Well, you got a fan in the chat already. You got Jeffro Cotton in the chat.
Hey, buddy. Hey, Jethro. How are you?
Hey, Dylan. Hey, Beth. Glad y'all are here. So we got, I know Leon is watching on YouTube. So we got 7 people. And as the show goes on, more and more people will join the chat. And some people will just watch it later, Carl. So, hey, Bobby. Good to see you, sir. I'll see you Friday night. Carl, I know you said you've been in the SCV since 2004. I know you're a councilman today, but what other positions have you held prior to becoming a councilman?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I was served at the camp level. I was second lieutenant commander of the Fighting Joe Wheeler camp, which at that time was the largest camp in Alabama. And then I was second lieutenant commander there for 2 years, first lieutenant commander, I think, for 4, maybe 5 years. 5 years. Let me think. Then I became, in 2008, Alabama Division Chief of Staff. 2010, I became the Alabama Northwest Central Brigade Commander. Simultaneously, from 2010 to 2012, I was the Army of Tennessee Chief of Heritage Operations. 2012 to 2016, I was Alabama Division Second Lieutenant Commander. 2016 to 2018, I was simultaneously First Lieutenant Commander of the Alabama Division and National Chief of Heritage Operations. 2018, 2020, I was Alabama Division Commander. And then since that time, I've been Army of Tennessee Councilman. So that's about as good as I can do, man. there were probably a few others here and there. You know, if the SCV ever figures out you're willing to serve, they will find a spot for you to serve in, right?
So, okay, exactly. Now, touch up on the subject of you being councilman. What does that all entail?
Well, the most the simplest explanation for that is that I am your representative. I represent the membership of the Army of Tennessee. As most people out there know, some probably don't, because we sometimes we run across a lot of members that don't understand the structure of the SCV. But the SCV is divided into three armies: the ANV, which is basically Massachusetts or whatever the Maine, I guess, the farthermost northern state down to South Carolina. That's the ANV. The ATM is west of the Mississippi River. The ATM is essentially the Canadian border down to Florida. We are the largest army. The last I heard, I believe we have between 14 and 15,000 members in the AOT. And so the big difference between the AOT councilman and the AOT commander is that the commander is the representative on the General Executive Council for the division, whereas the councilman is the representative for the members of that army. Okay, so if there's a division issue, division commander has an issue, he contacts the army commander. If a division member has an issue, he comes up the chain of command through his camp commander, brigade commander, division commander, and then if they can't solve the problem, then it comes to me.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you explained the different armies.
Well, and in addition to that, I mean, Jimmy Hill, who's our Army commander, he and I, we have a minimum of 4 General Executive Council meetings per year. We have other meetings generally on Zoom nowadays. In between those meetings, used to be teleconference back, a few years ago. But we've got a little more advanced. So Jimmy and I are the representatives for the Army as a whole on that council. We are your vote, essentially. Okay, so when an issue comes up to finance this project, finance that project, or do this or do that, then we are basically your representative on that body to have your voice heard. So
that's good to know. Yeah, because I know. Next month we got Arkansas coming up.
Yep.
That's going to be a blast.
It will. It'll be a good time.
Oh yeah, especially at Old Mob Hotel. Just the history and the story behind it is amazing.
Yeah.
So, Carl, anything going on in AOT right now, or is everything kind of quiet, just waiting for national?
There's a lot going on. You'd have to look at it by division. I mean, one of the biggest things that has happened that affects not just the AOT but the entire SCV, and that is, I'm sure most of your members out there know that we have a museum we have built at our headquarters in Columbia, Tennessee, and very recently, within the last few weeks, the Tennessee State Archives came and visited and did an inspection of the museum, and we were approved by them as a resource for them. They really a resource for us to display archives or artifacts that they have in their archives. This is going to be a huge deal. This is great because it look, when you've got a museum and you're going to other museums such as the state archives, any state archives, that you've got to meet a lot of different criteria. I mean, think about the lighting, the climate control, there's a ton that goes into it. And so by passing that opens the doors that now we may be able to go to other states, around the South, and work out a same deal with them, because the criteria should be very similar from one state to the next as far as what they're looking for. But they have, I understand, a ton of textiles, of uniforms, flags. I know they've got the actual Lamat pistol that belonged to one of the Confederate generals. There's a ton of stuff there. And so that's a big deal. That's a big win for us in terms of getting the museum stocked. And I'm pretty stoked about that. I am a big advocate and proponent of the museum as a whole, and just in general. And the reason is, I was on the council in 2016 when we voted to break ground and build this museum. The plans for it, the idea had been kind of sitting there languishing for 8 years. I mean, we voted to build a museum in 2008, and it just we voted and approved it, and then didn't do anything for whatever reason. I don't know what the reason is, but in 2016, the council under Tom Strain, when he was commander in chief, we voted to start construction. Actually, the council under Kelly Barrow before that voted to finally have the blueprints drawn up. So that was a good starting point. And then we voted to break grounds. So we built the museum. It was completed under Paul Gramling's administration. And then we have an empty building sitting there. Okay, so what do we do? But going back to when we voted to initiate construction, the thing that got my attention was the idea for this museum. When I think of a museum, I think of, most of them that you go to, what you're going to see is a room full of belt buckles, cannonballs, mini balls, muskets, and all that stuff is cool. But in general, it's when you've seen one, you kind of seen them all, unless you go to a really big one like the Columbia Naval Museum or something like that. I would not really have been in favor of that, but Chuck McMichael, who was commander in chief in 2008 when we voted, or 2009, I can't remember, one of the two, when we voted to actually, when this project was conceived, he said the magic word. He said, this is not going to be just a museum. We're going to have a timeline in there that's going to tell our story, the story of the South. And when I heard that, I was okay. Yeah, you got my vote. I'm on board on this. So it's not just a glorified relic show like a lot of museums are. We are telling the story of the South from 1607 all the way up through the Reconstruction period, and even beyond in some cases. Okay, there is no other place on the entire planet that gives the southern side of the story. This is a platform for us to project to the entire world a rebuttal to the Yankee narrative.
Cool. Hey, Roy, glad you can make it, sir. Yeah, Carl's talking about the museum right now. I know Jimmy Hill's been, from what I've been seeing, Jimmy Hill's been there on the ground taking care of business.
Yeah, Jimmy's been the driving force behind behind getting the timeline up. That was an important part of it. I mean, and we voted on that. I think Commander McClooney actually made Jimmy Hill chairman of that committee. And between Jimmy and me, we kind of rounded up the writers who were going to write the timeline. Like I wrote a couple of sections, 2 or 3, I don't remember how many, 2 or 3 sections. Then we had, Ron and Donnie Kennedy wrote the section on Reconstruction. I had a couple of contacts inside and outside the SCV who helped us out. One of them, a compatriot from North Carolina who used to be a college teacher, wrote the segment on slavery. Jimmy and I agreed. I've always said this: we need to not run from the issue of slavery. Quit running from it. When you go out there and say slavery had nothing to do with the war, well, you're making yourself look stupid. Okay, it didn't have anything to do with the war, but it was an issue in the Southern economy, in secession, that sort of thing. We don't need to run from it. We need to tell the facts about it and tell it from our perspective, because guess what? When we do that, it still vindicates the South, right? It still works out in our favor. It's actually a stronger argument against the North, okay? So we wanted to cover that, but from the Southern perspective, because nobody else tells that story from the Southern perspective, and which happens to be the true perspective, as Eugene Genovese found out when he began digging into it and wrote his book, But then we got a section in there on Southern culture. Where did Southern culture come from? How did it get here? And so there were several people. I don't even remember everybody who contributed to writing this. Like I said, I rounded up 3 or 4 of them, and then Jimmy did the rest. And Jimmy, he came up with a way of getting these things up on the wall. I mean, you walk in and you literally have an entire wall that you can stand there and read. And if you don't want to do that, you now have a QR code. You can scan it under your phone, take it home and read it. And so that is what makes this museum so unique. It's not just, like I said, it's not a glorified relic show. It's not a typical museum. It is an educational center. I mean, it is actually there for the purpose of educating people. One of the things we heard when we talked about this timeline, people aren't going to come in there and stand around and read that. Well, guess what? Whoever said that, you're wrong. I think somebody told me that the average time that a person that's coming in and viewing the museum, on average, they're spending between 2.5 and 3 hours. They are literally walking around and reading this timeline. And I've heard that from multiple people that have witnessed it for themselves. So I cannot overstate how important this thing is I think this is the most important blow towards the woke PC narrative that the SCV has ever launched.
Yes, sir. Yeah, because and I know a lot. I know a lot of it's changed, because the last time I saw the museum, Jeff O'Connor's in chat, we saw it on opening day for the forest reinterment, and I was amazed then.
Oh, it's not even the same. It's not even close to what it looked like. I mean, it's come light years. I mean, we still got a long way to go, but it's light years from that, from what it was then.
Wow. Yeah, because Roy Hudson, that's in chat, he's up there on the command staff with National. He's told me the changes that have gone through with the museum, and I'm just like, that short amount of time, I just want to go, wow.
Well, with the Tennessee Archives coming on board and approving us,
yeah,
I mean, we should be able to really, to come pretty close, I think, to stocking out the rest of the museum. Jimmy can tell you more because he's up there more often than I am, and he's kind of involved in the organizational process of it and everything. Mm-hmm. And I'm probably butchering, the whole process. But because, like I said, I mean, Jimmy and I talk about twice a week, but he's actually been there and been involved in it. So he can probably give you a lot more detail. But I can tell you, every time I go up there, it's grown a little bit. And it's, you see some new stuff. And it is, it really is just a tremendous undertaking that I think is just, is going to be, it's going to be beneficial for generations of Southern people.
Cool. I'm glad to hear that the museum is growing, and congratulations on that, the archive thing. That's a huge right there.
Well, we hope and we believe, we've got reason to believe, I'll just put it that way, that other states will follow suit.
Yeah,
So
that's cool. Yeah. Now, with the Tennessee Archives, do they have, what kind of stuff that they have in storage that would be good for the museum?
I really don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
What I have been told is that they've got, a lot of flags, some uniforms, and such as that. Outside of that, I'm not really sure. I think they've got some weapons as well. I can't give you the details on that. I wish I could. I just don't know the answer to it. I'm just not as familiar with the Tennessee archives as I am with Alabama. So for obvious,
Right.
but yeah,
Do you think, with being from Alabama, do you think Alabama will jump on board?
we are very hopeful. We have had a very long standing relationship with the Alabama Department of Archives. I mean, when I say long standing, I mean literally as far back as I can remember in the SCV.
Hmm.
Um, we're probably in the Alabama Archives operates with no tax dollars. Okay, so they operate 100% on donations, and the SCV is, if not the largest, we are one of the largest donors per year. We have it in our constitution that 10% of the money coming into the Alabama division budget off of our tag receipts every year automatically will be presented to the Alabama Department of Archives. So we have a very, very positive, very good, long-standing relationship with them. We've also donated additional money, aside from that. When I was division commander, for example, one of General Fighting Joe Wheeler's uniforms was basically, it was recovered. It was, kind of saved by the Wheeler family from the Museum of the Confederacy, who had not stored it properly and it had undergone a moth infestation.
Ooh.
And the family got it back. Well, we paid the $15,000 to have it restored to historical perspective, what it would have been.
Yeah.
And the money coming from that to the archives to have that project done was 100% from the Alabama SCV and the Alabama UDC. And so they think highly of us. I mean, to the point where they've asked our input on. They said, here are our upcoming preservation potential, things that we can potentially preserve in the upcoming year. What are the 10 most important to y'all? So they actually give us input on those types of things. So that's kind of the relationship we have with them. So I don't think that being able to work out a deal where they allow us some of their artifacts, I don't think that'll be a problem. But they're going to have to come up and go through, I'm sure, the same inspection process Tennessee did, assuming that, and that's why I say Tennessee was that was a good sign, because I don't think Alabama's inspection, the criteria is going to be a lot different from Tennessee. So I think there's a lot of potential there. The current Alabama division commander will have have more input and everything in that than I will at this point, because I'm out of office. I'm not personally directly in contact with them anymore. But I think it's good. I think that I'm optimistic, very optimistic on it. So.
Cool. All right, that sounds like a double win for us.
Well, and it could be more than that. I mean, you got other states out there, so
yeah. Yeah, because here in Florida, I mean, I haven't talked to the archive people, but our governor is getting ready to do something different than becoming a governor.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I know.
I want him to stay your governor.
He doesn't put up with any BS.
And I want about 30 more governors like him, but that's a different story. I don't want to get political.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, girls. Victor, I don't know what you're talking about. Now, guys and girls, feel free to ask Coral questions. He can see the chat.
I actually can't. I'm not. I may have to. Do I need to swap it over to? I see it says comments over there.
Yeah, that's
but I still don't know that I'll be able to see it because I'm getting old and hard of seeing in my old age. So.
you put up with Moose and GCB, you know.
Yeah, right. Well, Moose pops everything up on the screen. He does all the work for us. So
this is true.
All right. Yeah, I can see the comments now. I just got to be able to read them.
Victor, if you want to give him a gator hat, that's your thing. You can do that up in Arkansas.
Yeah, a Gators hat. I'm not going to comment on that.
I didn't think so. Victor,
number one, I'm not a football fan. Number two, if I were, I'm a Clemson fan, not Gators. So, but
right.
Hey, I would take it. Look, when I watch, the only time I watch football really is during the bowl games, and you got the Southeast Conference and the Big 12 or the whatever they call them. I don't even remember. I don't even pay. Like I said, I don't pay any attention till bowl season. But my conference is everything Oklahoma and East and Maryland South. If I cheer against the Yankee teams, if your team is in the South, then I am during bowl season. When you're not playing Alabama or Clemson, I'm in favor. I'm pulling for you. So, but there you have it. But yeah, I played football in high school with Dabo at Clemson. So I got to pull for the Tigers.
Nothing wrong with that. I went to a community college. It fit me. Hey, Kim, good to see you. Our division chaplain's in the chat. So, guys, we got Carl. Feel free to ask questions. I don't think Carl's not shy. We know that. Yeah, I don't want to get into a debate about football, Victor.
My son's the one to debate football. That's what I used to really, really pay a lot of attention to football. I was big into it. And when I had boys and I had one play in little league, the other one play in middle school, and then they got up where one was playing middle school, the other one was playing JV and varsity. And when I started going to 3 games a week, every week between Monday and Friday, 3 games, by the time Saturday got around, I was like, I don't want to see more friggin' football. And so really, I am a Good Hope Raiders fan because that's the team my kids played for, and my oldest son coaches for them now. Ooh. So I've gotten way more into the high school ball. So if I can't debate you on college ball because I literally don't watch it. I don't pay any attention to it.
Now, Carl, you were telling me something very interesting before we went live with the show. You have connections to Florida, don't you?
Yeah, I was telling you I had that I know of. I think it was 16 ancestors. This is one third great grandfather, his brothers, and then all of their first cousins that served in Florida regiments. So the ancestor I joined the SCV under was Joseph Henson, and he served in the 6th Florida Infantry Regiment. So, it's funny when I found that out, I remembered, how things will kind of jog your memory. And I remembered my great grandparents always loved to talk about their family. And I can remember on various occasions my grandmother saying, well, my people were from Florida. And it was one of those things that she would say, and I didn't, it's like 30 years later, wait a minute, I remember grandmother telling me that her people were from Florida. This makes sense. And that was when I was, kind of investigating all my Confederate ancestry, and everything just kind of clicked together. But yeah, they were probably some of the first to go in and actually begin settling Florida. I mean, they were down there in the early 1800s, when it really wasn't very safe to be there, and so yeah, I've traced it to 1833 to 1835, somewhere in between there. My third great grandfather and two or maybe three of his brothers. I'm not clear on his third brother, but I think there may have been three brothers, and they moved in there at that time period from Anson County, North Carolina, and then took off from there. So,
well, Carl, we get some questions coming up. There you go, from Roy Hudson.
Roy, as far as I know, I have heard nothing about any changes to the outside of the museum since March. I'm not sure if you're referring to something specific, or maybe, I've not heard into any changes that I'm aware of that I remember off the top of my head.
Ready? Our division chaplain had one for you.
Kim, he's asking, we have a long fight ahead of us, but do you feel the pendulum might be swinging back our way? All I can tell you is from my personal experience, and I kind of came into the SCV backwards. Back around 1999, I began studying colonial history, which led me on this sort of rabbit trail, and it got me into reading the history of how the U.S. Constitution came about, of Jeffersonianism and this sort of thing. I discovered through that process, what the Constitution was really supposed to mean, and very, very few. There's almost nobody out there, either liberal left or conservative right or conservative left or any of that, because most conservatives today, I hate to tell you, they're actually leftist, okay? Very, very few people across the country got it. I worked at that time when I discovered the idea of state sovereignty and federalism as the founders intended it, and that's another discussion for another time. I can go pretty in depth on that. But when I discovered the Constitution as they intended it and as they ratified it and as it is supposed to apply to our lives, I thought, man, this makes so much sense. Why in the world? But I could see, and I'd been listening to Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity and these other people for a long time, and I thought, they really don't know what they're talking about, and something went cataclysmically wrong. What was it? Well, about 2002, Tom DiLorenzo came out with his book, The Real Lincoln, and I didn't know who Tom was at the time. I knew who Walter Williams was, and Walter wrote the foreword to that book, and I was a big fan of Walter Williams. And I saw, here's a black man saying the South was right. What in the world is up with this? I've got to read this book. And when I did, I realized what had gone wrong, what had failed dramatically, tragically between the founding generation and our current generation. And it was Lincoln. Okay. This is I know this is a long way around to get to answer your question. But when I discovered that, and I realized what the 10th Amendment meant, what the separation of powers actually meant, what the true role of the general government was, And then I put that into context with Lincoln's war against these things. His war it was not just against the South, it was against America as the founders intended it. And I would go to work and I would tell friends of mine who were very conservative people, well, the Constitution doesn't actually allow this. It doesn't allow for an environmental protection agency. It doesn't allow for education funding or no child left behind and all this other crap they're doing. Well, they thought I was crazy. They thought I was absolutely off my rocker. This was 2002, 2003, 2004. Flash forward to today. I could not find anybody back then who agreed with anything I said. Most people, if a political conversation came up, they would get, and I was in the room, they would get up and walk out because they were going, oh, here's this guy with a full hat going to start talking about Thomas Jefferson and James Madison again. And we don't even know who those people are. He's a nut. And so a lot of those same people today are now telling me, I get it. So the short answer to your question after I went through that long diatribe is that yes, I do believe the pendulum is swinging. You've got leftist liberals now talking about splitting up the union and letting the blue counties go their way and the red counties go their way. Maybe we should just politically divorce from one another. Is it enough in time? I don't know. Does it vindicate the South, the Confederacy? I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure a lot of these people are at this point educated enough to kind of tie all of that together and realize that, hey, the same problems we're having today are the problems that the Confederate soldier fought to prevent. If the South, if Lincoln had just let them go, a lot of these issues we have today would not have ever materialized. And I don't know how many people outside of the SCV, outside of our circle, have caught on to that, but I do think that they are maybe ever so slightly heading a little bit more in that direction, and that's a good thing.
Thank you. Kim, hopefully that answers your question. Roy Hudson said the pavers.
The pavers. I have not heard anything, Roy, on the pavers since you and I last saw each other at headquarters. So I can't give you a honest answer on that. I wish I could.
Keep them coming, guys. We got a chance to talk with Carl. Feel free to ask questions. He's our councilman.
I see Victor has a question. What are my feelings about the proposed amendment to allow the CIC to run for a consecutive term? I don't know, Victor. I wish I could give you a straightforward answer on that, but honestly, I haven't resolved that in my own mind yet. I see the advantage to it, and I see the benefit to it. I think that the right now, the one thing that I would say is that we are by pushing, by limiting the commander and lieutenant commander to one term, we seem to be kind of depleting our talent pool. When we limit them, we've got to have people to replace them. Okay. And there are times when that's easy to do, and there are other times when it's not easy to do. And you might have, like we've seen in our own divisions probably. I think every division commander or people that have been on your division executive council have seen points in time where, okay, all of a sudden we had all these experienced guys who had been on the council and kind of knew how we operate, and now all of them have stepped down, and so we get kind of overrun with a whole bunch of brand new guys, and you got your council is dominated by new blood. That's not a bad thing, okay? But now, 2 years later, one of these new guys is going to have to run for division commander. So you can kind of exhaust your I shouldn't say talent pool, but your pool of experience. And it takes a little while to gain the experience for most people. There are exceptions, but for most people, it takes more than a couple of years to kind of learn the ropes to step up to the commander-in-chief position. So from that angle, I would be in favor of the amendment. On the other side of it, you get the point. You might cut down on the number of people that want to run, although they're well qualified for it, and that is because, according to our Constitution, the past you will have the 3 past commanders will remain on the council. Okay, so you would, let's say today that, let's say the amendment passes. I'm just hypothetical here. Jason Boshier runs for a 2nd term, and then he rolls off. He becomes a past division commander. He is now going to be on the council for an additional 12 years, hands down. Okay, so that's not a problem. Of course, we want Jason to be on the council as long as he wants to be. The problem is if you've got somebody out there who is saying, I think I could do a good job running the organization, being the face of the organization, setting the agenda, but if I'm going to start out running for lieutenant commander, serve 4 years there, and then I'm going to become commander in chief and serve 4 years there, that's 8 years, and then I'm going to be mandated to an additional 12 years, that is 20 years that I'm going to be mandated to by running for 2 offices. Okay, so it might dissuade a lot of otherwise worthy, qualified people from even wanting to run. So that's the real issue that all of us prior to the convention have to work out in our minds as, should we leave it like it is or change it? And I wish I could give you a straightforward answer, but I'm kind of where you are. I'm not sure either which way I lean at this point.
Victor, thank you for asking that, and Carl for your opinion on that. I didn't think on how many more. When I talked about this at our my camp meeting just this past Saturday, I didn't think about how many more years he has to be on the GEC. That's good. Yeah, that is definitely something to think about.
I see. I don't know how to pronounce that name. Is that Deline? Deline?
Yeah,
Do you think we could get Thomas DiLorenzo as a speaker? I've hired him before. We put on an education conference in Alabama for 3 years. We're starting it back up. It died off actually during COVID, and because we couldn't get a place to hold it. But the last year we held it, I had Tom come up, and he was one of our speakers. He is a really super nice, very down-to-earth guy. It was really a pleasure to have him. I mean, I just can't tell you how highly I think of him. And at that time, guess what? He was living in Florida, so you have a good chance of getting him. So, but I just sent him an email, and he was very responsive. It was no problem. It cost you a little money. I think we paid $1,500, but for a speaker, for somebody of his caliber, that's really kind of on the low end. There's a lot of others out there who, although prominent in the grand scheme of things, they're not on our side, and they would charge you, 10, 20 times that. So it's not an astronomical price. And he was very well worth having. So, yeah.
That's good to know. Yeah, because I know me, Delyn, and her hubby, Leon, we've talked about bringing him in and getting both of our brigades together.
He is a big fan of the SCV. The last email that I sent to him, we were talking about that event that he showed up to, and I was thanking him for coming, and he said, "Hey, Carl, it was my pleasure." He said, "I love the SCV. It's the only time I get to be around all real Americans."
I like that one. I like that one, Carl. Victor, I don't know if you wanted to touch this one tonight or not, Carl.
Oh, Lord. Victor,
Yeah.
man, what are you trying to do to me, buddy? I don't think that I don't think we have to stipulate biological male. A male is a male. There's no other way you can be a male than by biology. Okay, so I don't know that we even have to have that. But if it came up, I could. It is. I'm obviously in favor of the sentiment, but and I will say this: I believe that we have the right to determine male on our own terms. Okay. And I'll just kind of leave it at that. It hasn't come up yet. I'll give you a more in-depth, detailed answer when we get to that point. So
that was my opinion to my camp. But yeah, living down in the Everglades, we really don't have to worry about that.
It'll happen. I mean, sooner or later, and it's been kicked around, in private discussion. What if this? What if that? But look, a male's a male. This is my opinion. This is not the opinion of the SCV. The SCV's opinion on this, as it stands, is there is no opinion on it. It's political discussion. It's been politicized, all right. But my personal opinion is that you're born either a male or a female, and there's no way of changing that. So.
Yeah, my opinion is how God looks at it. What's in the Bible.
Yeah, well, that's there you go.
Yeah, I wanted to get the disclaimer going. That way we don't get in trouble. I was going to put that up earlier. Because I know Victor, he's going to ask those questions. I know I should have put up the disclaimer. Yeah, Bobby, I can see your point. And Keith, good to see you, buddy. Wow. I'm glad they finally get a chance for Carl to come on the show. Guys, we still got time. We got 10 minutes. Keep the questions going. Because next time we're going to see Carl is going live in Arkansas. Me, Moose, and GCB have been talking about just getting everything together and going live on all the platforms. If it will work out and our timing works out. That should be a hoot.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. Alrighty. I don't see any more questions popping up. More and more people are joining the chat. You got that right, Jeffro. It'd be a great time in Hot Springs.
Hey, well, the question is Jeffro going to be there?
Yes, he is, because he's riding with me.
Good. Because, he and I have been friends for a long time. We've had a lot of conversations. We're both fellow leathernecks, and I don't think I've ever met him. I may be wrong. If I have, forgive me, but I don't recall ever meeting him.
Yeah, he's riding up with me and our regional lieutenant commander, which is also our captain for our MECGAV.
Well, good deal.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah, we're all riding up. We're all representing Southwest region of Florida.
Good.
Because we got members from all over the state, all different parts of the region, be merging in on Hot Springs in July.
Well, I'm looking forward to Hot Springs in 2016. My wife and I stayed there for one night on our way to the reunion in Dallas.
Oh, okay.
And they've got a really nice indoor shooting range there. So I may have to visit that again.
That's cool. You probably saw the question that just came up. Yeah, a little goofy question.
Can I confirm or deny the Thomas Franklin barbecue possum dinner at National? I haven't heard about this. I will say this. Nothing that he does would surprise me, okay?
Hey, we can.
But hey, if he does hold it, I hope he actually holds it the week that the reunion is going on, because last year he was a few days late on his Vienna sausage bar down in the lobby. You know, he announced on Monday or something like that, the day after everybody had left, that okay, my Vienna sausage bar is open down in the lobby, and the entire SCV had left and gone home. So I think he'd been into that moonshine jug a little too heavy. So
You sure it's that and not something else? Jeffrey, you're at the fish house in Columbia right now? That's kind of funny. I just talked to you about a couple hours ago. You were in Tampa. Yeah. Carl, I'm glad you had a chance to come on the chat tonight. I really do appreciate it, sir.
Happy to, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good chance for the Florida Division members to get to meet you.
Yeah, and I look forward to that. And also, I'll be in Florida next January. I'm actually speaking at the Kirby Smith Camp's Robert E. Lee banquet, and I'm looking really forward to that. So yeah, I love our Florida guys. I love our whole organization. I really do. You know, I mean, we truly are a family. The old vets were right when they called these things reunions instead of conventions. They truly are like family reunions. So
yeah, I mean, I can just speak for us here in Florida. When we all get together at a division reunion, it is exactly that, because a lot of us that live here in South Florida, we have a good connection. We all talk, hang out, and all that together, but we don't really get to see our brothers and sisters in Northwest Florida or Northeast.
Yeah, and it's always a good time, man. You know, I give you an example of how cool the SCV is, how tight knit it is. You know, my oldest boy, he's 22, and he was heading out to Fort Worth, Texas, a week ago, a little over a week ago. He's going to be out there for a month with a couple of his buddies, and they're working a job building playgrounds. Okay. Well, he's never been away from home before, and this worries his old dad. Although when I was 3 years younger than him, I was in Okinawa and South Korea, but that was me, so it's different. Okay. But you know, I worry about my kids, and so, you know, I got some good friends down in the Texas division, and one of them lives there in Fort Worth, and Kurt Barnett, and he and I hang out with each other every year at the reunions. He's one of my, my best buds in the SCV, and I sent him a message and said, "Hey, man, my son's going to be down there in your area for a month. If he has any emergencies, can I give him your phone number?" He said, "Absolutely." He said, "Heck, call him, tell him to call me anyway. He likes football. I like football. We'll go out to dinner and talk football." So that's how the SCV is, man. I mean, it is. I've never walked into an SCV function, even if I didn't know anybody in the room. I've never walked in and felt out of place. I'm at home, and so are you. So are all of our members.
Yeah, because I got that warm feeling when I went up to the forest reinterment, and Chuck Mack looked at me. He goes, "I know you." I'm like, "I know you too." And the last time we saw each other was Tampa, Florida, for the flag site flag site raising.
Yeah.
And that was what, Jeffro, back in 2000 something, early 2000.
Well, look, man, gentle warning here. You need to be careful about admitting on recording that you know Chuck McMichael. All right, so.
Oh boy!
And you know I'm going to get paid back for that remark, right? I mean, I'm going to catch it from him, right?
Yeah, Jeffro, you're right. Back in 2009, when we did the flag site dedication in Tampa. Exactly, Keith. I know you just joined the SCV, and you're a go-getter, man. You're getting it done. I'm looking forward to meeting you face to face this Saturday. If you have nothing else to do Saturday night, come and hang out with us. Have a cocktail. Odie Victor. Alrighty, we've been going at this for about an hour. Carl, does anybody have any questions for Carl? Well, he's here and he has a chance to talk with us. It's your guys' time with Carl. You guys going to see me this weekend. We're not going to see Carl unless SCV Chat has him on, but not until Arkansas. So keep in mind, guys, check out some of our sister shows. SCV Chat on Monday nights and Thursday nights. Michael Hardy on Sunday nights. David Pope with his stuff. Well, that's an interesting question, Victor. Let the man answer that one.
It's a safe bet that yes, there will, Victor. I bring a guitar to every reunion. I don't think I've ever not brought a guitar to a reunion. So yeah, I pretty much will have one. And I don't know if he's asking that as a request or asking me to forewarn him so he can avoid it.
Comment with him, it's no telling with Victor. It can be one or the other. You're going to bring a lighter and roses. Okay, Victor. Well, Carl, I just want to say thank you for having a chance of coming on tonight and talking with us. I really learned a lot from you when you last Monday when you talked about the brigade commanders, and pretty much, that's what I'm pretty much doing is pretty much exactly what you were talking about.
Good deal.
And I'm
Yeah.
using this to be able to communicate with my brigade members.
Yeah. Well, the brigade commanders are a very important link in the chain of the SCV. I mean, in terms of information flowing both directions from the camp to national and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they're also very important in providing an example, providing education, providing leadership advice. You know, of all the offices that I've served in over the years, I think in a lot of ways, I think that one was one of the most important, if not the most important. So,
Right.
and if you want to, you know, if you want to do this again at some point and go a little deeper into that, you know, I'd be happy to. Or you know, your viewers can just go watch the conversation that Commander Gramling and I had on that subject. But yeah. We could have gone on a lot longer than we did. I mean, there's still a lot that could have been said there. But if you're a brigade commander, take your job seriously, learn the ropes, learn everything you can do, stay in contact with your camps, and figure out ways to help them grow and help them thrive. And you will be doing a tremendous service to the SCV, I promise you.
A lot of good information directly from our Army of Tennessee councilman. So, like I said, we've been going out this for an hour. Carl, thank you for coming on.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're going to pretty much end the show. And looking to see every one of you in the Florida Division SCV OCR this weekend. Trenton, Florida. Be there. Friday night, if you want to come to the before the division party, hit up me, Jeff O'Kine, Delenn, that's in the chat. Or if you just want to come after the reunion, Saturday, we'll have an after action get together too. So I'm looking forward to seeing all you this weekend in Trenton, Florida. Yeah. Okay, Keith. Good. All right, Linda. Good seeing you. Roy, Hudson, all you guys. Good seeing all of you. I'll see you all this weekend. Carl, I'll be seeing you up there in Arkansas.
All right, brother. You too. Appreciate it.
Ready, let's go to which one?
My dad told me he always had a kinship to the battle flag. Always growing up, he knew there was something there, but he couldn't put it together. I called my 97-year-old grandmother, and I asked her, do we have any soldiers in the family? I gave her 3 descriptions. Verde, which means green for modern day soldier, blue, azul, or gris, means gray. And she said, mijo, which means my son in Spanish, is gris. It was gray. My great-great-grandfather was named Andres Torres Rodriguez. He was born in Mexico. He was a laborer. And he was in 8th Texas Infantry, and his unit later on got incorporated to the Texas 33rd Cavalry under Santos Benavides, who was the highest Mexican-American Confederate officer. He was a colonel. There was over 13,000 Hispanic soldiers throughout the Confederate States, but out of those 13,000 were 2,500 Tejanos. And it's 2 words combined. Texas in Spanish is Tejas. Mexican in Spanish, Mexicano. You combine both words, Tejano. They contributed a lot for Southern independence. I think that they deserve respect, honor, and dignity under the Confederate flag that they fought for. There was people of color, Mexican people, and other Hispanics, and other people of color that fought in this war. Everyone's reason was different, but primarily they fought in this war for their independence and to protect their homeland. I joined the SCV because I'm extremely proud of my Confederate heritage. I have Confederate DNA. I just want to ensure that the present generation and future generations know and never forget the contributions of Hispanics in the War of Northern Aggression. I am Richard Luna Garcia, the great-great-grandson of Private Andres Torres Rodriguez, a Tejano Confederate soldier.
Have a good night. Stay
All
safe.
right, buddy. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Carl, for coming on tonight.
You got it, buddy. Thanks.